I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Reno from Loverboy.
Hi, this is Joe Satriani.
Hey, I am Brandy Rhodes.
Hey, I'm UFC fighter CB Dollaway.
Clay Milliken, driver of the Parts Plus, Great Clips, Top Fuel Dragster.
What's up, world? This is your favorite comic, Tony Rock.
Hey guys, this is Kendra Sunderland, Vixen Angel of the Year.
Hey, this is Jimmy Chamberlain.
Hey, it's your boy J-Rock from Sunnyvale Trailer Park. You know, I'm and you listen to my boy T-Biscuit on the Toddcast podcast. I'm out like I sold something.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, providing complete financing and mortgage services for residential and small commercial businesses. Visit them at citywidemortgage.ca.
Now, here's your host, Todd Hancock.
It's fair to say that if you're a fan of any NHL team, you're likely to go on a ride each and every season, right? Big wins, crushing, soul, heart-wrenching losses. There's nothing like watching your team in the playoffs. The heartbreak of a Game 7 exit, or at least that's the case if you're a Vancouver Canuck fan. But loyalty never dies. It doesn't diminish. Hockey's in our blood. And this week, a Vancouver sports writer who gets it. Canucks Army managing editor David Quadrelli is a guest.
No, as you're making me recall it a bit, it's actually the 2009 World Series. That was probably my first sports memory.
Yeah. And you're a fan, of course, like beyond hockey. Like we know that you're a hockey guy, but like you like sport in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a big baseball fan. Really, really like baseball.
Yeah. What do you remember about the 2009?
Well, I mean, my dad was a huge fan, and I mean, like, I've always been a big baseball fan, and like, I played baseball growing up, and I mean, like, my dad was a Yankees fan growing up, and he didn't really watch much other baseball. He just watched the playoffs. So then when the Yankees were in the World Series, we were like, okay, we're watching this, and like, my dad told me, he's like, hey, this closer, Mariano Rivera, like, he's the greatest closer that you're ever going to see in your life. And I mean, that's still true today. I don't think that's ever going to change. Yeah. And I mean, I remember him specifically closing out games and again, coming out to Enter Sandman. Again, I was 9 years old, but I definitely remember it. Like that was that. Yeah. Now that you make me recall it, like that was probably my first sports memory.
Joining Quads, she is part of a super interactive community. We're talking real-time engagement with cosplay Twitch streamer Danielle DeNicola also joins us.
For streaming, definitely the consistency of it. And for streaming, the ability to stream as often as possible, as long as possible is really important.
A successful cosplay Twitch streamer, a trusted Vancouver sports writer, and you'll hear from this week's musical guest in just a second. Two members of a band who put out their debut album back in 1994 and then re-released it last summer. My name is Todd Hancock. Great to have you along for the ride. And it's sponsors like our title sponsor, Citywide Mortgage Services, that allow us to keep trudging along year after year. We're into our 11th year podcasting. It blows my mind. Citywide is into their third year sponsoring, and was great to watch Dara, one of the owners, and he's a good buddy of mine, work his magic with my mortgage renewal just last month. Prime rate was coming down, and Trump was coming in. Trudeau was stepping down, lots of variables around my time of renewal. And Dara just kind of helped me along the way, just making sure that I got the best interest rate for the time. I think it's a little bit lower now, but I mean, that's just the way it is. I locked in mine with a fixed rate. I'm one of those guys that kind of needs to know how much money is, coming in and how much is going out. And thankfully, Citywide Mortgage Services are elite in Vancouver's mortgage game. So if you need to sign a new mortgage or renew like I did, use my network. Talk to Dara and he will dial everything up for you. Keep it simple. Keep it straightforward. All right, so coming up shortly in Stop Me If You've Heard This Before, retired two-time CFL Grey Cup winner Will Loftus talking about his career highlights. He has a bunch. That is powered by the Home Dwell Group, longtime friends of this podcast. We're talking literally elementary school days. I trust them 100%, and you should as well. If you're buying a house or you're selling your home, talk to Kyle today through homedwell.ca. homedwell.ca. First, our first guest of 3 this week's musical guest is 2 of the members of Salvador Dream. If that name is ringing a bell, chances are you were a rocker, as I got the horns up. In the early 90s, they had a couple of songs on rock radio back in the day, and their singer and bassist, Toby and Russ, I guess that'd be the other way. Russ is the singer, Toby's the bassist. They jumped on a Zoom. We talked about the reissue of Salvador Dream's debut album, and how that was a mind-blowingly 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, once we had the idea thrown at us from Kim Cook about remixing and remastering the major label debut, that's when it kind of dawned on me that it was 30 years ago. And because now we have to go search for the 2-inch tapes. Right.
Isn't it crazy how time flies? We talked to Russ and Toby for just over half hour. You can hear it right now at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, I suppose, and see it at our YouTube channel. They're all at Toddcast Podcast. How about that? Some branding. But great to get into the mechanics of the band as well. The fact that they're working on a band documentary. They talked about career highlights. We talked about seeing bands like April Wine and Third World and what that first jam back together was like.
Okay, so we did a little, like 5 songs or whatever, and we just wanted to play 5 songs because Tino came here and he said, well, I need more footage, let's, and he was here in Vancouver, and so because he's from Toronto, sorry, I forgot to mention, but we took a day and we shot a bunch of things. We shot out like a small video for Distress and Exit as well, and then did some other things that he could hopefully use for the documentary. And yeah, it was exciting and fun, and it's good vibes all the way.
Totally. That's so great. That's so great.
Yeah, I think it was sort of like putting on an old suit that you hadn't worn in 30 years. It felt like going back in time a little bit.
That's so good. You're like, holy crap, the suit still fits.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you got to think that after all of these years, getting the boys back in the same room again, playing music, it doesn't get much better than that. And under the circumstances, here's your label, Warner Music Canada. They were going to re-release your debut. Pretty damn cool. Russ and Toby talked about the amazing Chet Atkins and Lenny Bro family came up, and the nail in the coffin for many bands in the early 90s, the arrival of grunge.
And that's one thing I want to add about the grunge conversation.
Yeah.
When the thing that you need to remember is in Canada, there was no grunge. The popular bands at that time were Tom Cochrane and Blue Rodeo and the Bare Naked Ladies. Those were the bands that were charting at that time. So we were completely, left field compared to those bands.
Lorena McKennitt.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
True.
Yeah. So
that was Canadian music,
that's a big
right?
reason why
Tom Connors,
Well, yeah.
So that's what we're competing against. Yeah, and it wasn't really set up like that. So I think some of the managements knew and some of the labels knew what to kind of lean on, but yeah, I thought, MTV was your marker, And you should have just jumped on that. It's like, oh, I see that the style is changing. No more hair bands, no more spandex. What's going on here? Better jump on it, you know?
I mean, they eventually did, but it just took Canada some time to jump on it, though, yeah.
That's right.
No kidding. Like if you talk to most rock bands who were around that early 90s, grunge was an overnight sensation, overnight success. It stripped away the excess of the 80s glam and the arena rock and kind of pushed alternative rock now to the forefront. And interesting to hear Salvador Dream talking about the music industry, specifically those who believed in them, like Kim Cook and Warner Music. We talked about the juggernaut of Guns N' Roses and why it is that Canadian bands sometimes struggle to break into the United States.
I don't know. I guess that's a label question in a sense. But I'm going to say just purely on how much promotion a band gets, right? Like if they have a huge budget to promote in the US, or the US component or arm of their label takes it up and goes, yeah, we really love this band. We're going to push it right through just like any other US band. And maybe that's what sort of was happening, you know? They couldn't get the radio ads. They couldn't get the plays. They couldn't, because they didn't have enough budget to push it through. And I keep going back to the budget thing, but
it's a huge part of what a band does, though.
Yeah, or the label has to spend the money in order to that. And so maybe they feel once they kind of test the waters that, it's unrecoupable. So then they cut it off and they don't spend the money. So, because, in order to the label to feel like they're going to make their money back regardless, right? That's the whole component of it. It's like, well, no problem. But then, in our case, no, you get cut off.
And there's infamous stories about that with labels like almost dropping bands like GNR. GNR almost got dropped by Geffen because they were like, same thing. Like, we're not going to be able to recoup anything. Like Appetite for Destruction is one of the biggest albums of all time. And they almost got dropped.
Yeah. And here's a great example that I think that is sort of what our model could have been if people had the sort of foresight to see maybe is Rush, right? Rush didn't make it until 2112. And then when they hit 2112, that's when the full weight of their promotion and their whole thing really started. Up until that, there was Caress of Steel and like nobody was feeling it. Nobody, they were on tour. I guess the story is in the video that I saw of them or the documentary is like nobody was feeling it. They're on tour with Ted Nugent. He was in the same space or place. And, they weren't feeling Ted Nugent either. I guess. So how do you, that's what I mean by management. How do you dig yourself out of that hole where, you've got something, but people just don't believe it yet because you haven't proved yourself in the marketplace.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca.
I was up all night, stuck in a dream. The haze between reality was wearing on me, and I'm tired of wearing it. It's like I forgot just how things were. Time went by and I was sure I was over it, but I'm not over it. Every time this feeling crashes in, I gotta tell myself, baby, put your worry down. It's too much to carry, it ain't yours to hold. Oh baby, put your worry down. You just keep drowning, you gotta let it go. I keep digging deep, getting stuck in the past, praying to God the pain won't last in those memories, but they're just memories. Treading water, tiring out, I'm sick of all this endless doubt that's weighing on me. It can't keep weighing on me. wanna tell myself, baby, put your worry down. It's too much to carry, it ain't yours to hold. Yeah, baby, put your worry down. You'll just keep drowning, you gotta let it go. Wading through this open ocean, floating like a wave, circles in forever motion, breaking through the chains, yeah. Oh baby, put your worry down. It's too much to carry, it ain't yours to hold. Yeah, baby, put your worry down. You just keep drowning, you gotta let it go. Yeah, baby, put your worry down. Yeah, baby, put your worry down. Oh, it's too much to carry, it's too much to carry. Yeah, baby, put your worry down. Baby, put your worry down.
And now, stop me if you've heard this before on the Toddcast podcast.
You'll know Will Loftus from his impressive career playing in the CFL, 11 seasons with the Edmonton Eskimos before the name change, and the Montreal Alouettes. Will was born in Vancouver, a two-time Grey Cup champ, hoisting the cup in 2002 with the Alouettes, again with the Eskimos in 2005. And when Will was a guest, we talked about all sorts of topics. His decision to retire from playing pro football, superheroes and comic book movies came up. He's a fan of Suicide Squad. He talked about his time training athletes with Elite Athletic Management, seeing Michael Jackson in concert. He even shared a near-death story. And stop me if you've heard this before, Will look back on his career and the unforgettable moments of winning the Grey Cup.
100%, nothing like it. I
Yeah.
mean,
Second time was probably still pretty
second time
cool.
was pretty awesome because
Yeah.
it was a different city and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the first time, like it was something like the Alouettes. They hadn't won a Grey Cup in 25 years, and it was pretty epic. Like we went back, and honestly, when it hit you was when you got off the plane in Montreal. Airport's packed, people there just going crazy. We had a party down Saint Laurent, and I tell you what, like I've walked down that street many times playing out there 7 years, and let me tell you something, you couldn't move on the street, and there was over 200,000 people.
Wow.
200,000 people there. And they set up the stage right downtown Saint Laurent on the street, and it was the most amazing feeling. And you just felt like an entire community, an entire province had come together to celebrate. And honestly, you felt alive. You felt alive because you impacted all these people's lives as a simple member of the team, But that was the best.
Stop me if you've heard this before on the Toddcast podcast is powered by the Homedwell Group. Buying a house? Selling your home? Contact Kyle at homedwell.ca today. And now, highlighting our next Blue Light Sessions, powered in part by Canadian Club Whiskey. Meet your new cold one. We serve Canadian Club and Ginger ready-to-drink cocktails at all of our live shows. Visit CanadianClub.com today.
Life's up when the killer's in town. Tell you that she's my baby. Well, I don't know if he's me or you, so let's let him die. On the corner of light and this we'll call it bliss. Yes, and when was the last you were satisfied? See, my girl, well, it's been a while. Well, somebody call the place bed. Some call it being blind. And everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Yes, and when was the last you were satisfied? You see, my girl, it's been a while. Some they call a place babe. Some call it being blind. And everything is gonna be alright.
I mean, you could call that music epic, and you certainly would not be overreacting. The band is called The History of Gunpowder. Their song is Bliss, and I would be willing to bet that you'll see that one this Friday at the Blue Light Studio in beautiful East Vancouver. They will headline our next live show. Kat Madden will open up the night. Going to play something new from Kat later on in the podcast. As always, both bands will get that 45-minute set. I will interview for the first 15, 20 minutes. You can ask questions too. There's tons of things that have happened in the audience beyond questions. We've had people come up and play, kind of whatever happens in that time. Like literally the studio gives me the time. They're like, fill it up with fun stuff. And that's what we do. While they're playing, we will interview the band. So get those questions ready. And this one only has a few tickets left. It's almost sold out. So don't sleep on tickets. I doubt that there will be any at the door. Doors are at 7 o'clock for my shows. The show starts around 8-ish, something like that. And hope you can make it out to that. I played you a new song for Sadie Campbell. It's called Put Your Worry Down. And Sadie's a Vancouverite who relocated to Nashville probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's been some time now. Time kind of seems to blur lately, doesn't it? But love Sadie. Her latest latest album, Metamorphosis, is simply outstanding.org. I'm putting it as an org because it's so freaking big. It's like an organization, how big Metamorphosis is. Truly, there's like 5 or 6 like solid radio hits on that record. If you hear of Sadie playing anywhere near you, try to make it. She's one of those performers who just makes it look effortless. All right, so coming up in just a few minutes, listen to this. Comedian Ali Hassan talks about cancel culture. Is it real? Is it even a thing? That is powered by 9-year sponsor, absolutely key to why we've been able to continue banging things out year after year. Big love to Tamra and the crew over at Tedco RV Supplies in Langley. They are RV service and repairs, and yes, they are ICBC accredited, which is a big thing, a good thing. You can find them kicking around online from time to time on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies. First, the second of 3 Toddcast guests this week is our sporting guest. That's powered by Sacred Meds, Canada's best online dispensary for cannabis, psilocybin, psychedelics. Not to brag, but yes, indeed they are. Super happy that they sponsor me from time to time. I think this is the 5th or 6th time. I mean, like I said, we've been around for 10 or 11 years now. But love these guys. Shop online through sacredmeds.co. Sacredmeds.co. Weed, mushrooms, edibles, vapes, DMT, oils, dabs, CBD, and so much more. The site is literally, I'm scratching, not even. I'm like tickling the surface at this point. So check them out through sacredmeds.co. I think my code is 753. I think that's what it is. As mentioned off the top, let's get to this. Canucks Army managing editor David Quadrelli is a guest this week. And honestly, this is extra special for me because David was at one point a BCIT radio arts and entertainment student, radio A&E. This is about maybe 4 years back, 3, 4, maybe 5 years back now. And of course, I'm one of the instructors for that program at BCIT. And I remember David just being a step above the rest. And of course, no offense to anybody that was in his graduating class, but David, he was a star. I was like, why are you even here? And then I wasn't surprised to say when he was like, oh, I'm going to co-op out of the course. He's going to get the start in the industry. And at the time he was even doing the Canucks Conversation podcast, which he still does, like 5 or 6 years into doing that, a successful podcast here in Vancouver. He is the editor-in-chief of Nation HQ. He's a great writer. So it was awesome to get David on the cast and pick his brain a little bit. Like, what's his favorite sport to play?
Baseball for sure. Yeah.
You played it a ton as a kid. Like, what do you play? What's your position?
When I was a kid, I started at shortstop. Then I kind of moved to the outfield. Then I played second. Then I pitched. Then I played catcher. I really played everywhere except for first base. That was like the only position I could never really do. There was always more qualified people to play first base than me on the team, but yeah, I really like pitching. I mean, I still play, like I play men's league and I really enjoy it. So yeah, like pitcher, second base, outfield is probably what I've morphed into now.
Honestly, I think I knew that David was a baseball kid just from his writing in school, but the full talk is 20 minutes long. You can hear it right now. Check it out through our social media platforms, all at Toddcast Podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all that stuff. As we do with all of our guests, we go a little bit deeper than what they're known for. Of course, David, talking about hockey and stuff like the Edmonton Oilers. We talked about the JT Miller trade in just a sec. I'll dive into that a little bit. But we also got into like Mr. Beast and watching those episodes and the crazy shit that he gets his, contestants or people to do. Squid Games 2 came up as well. And yeah, like I said, the JT Miller trade. How could I talk to a managing editor of one of the coolest Vancouver sports pages here in town and not bring up the JT Miller trade? And which team? Was it the Canucks, the Rangers, the Penguins? Which team won overall in that trade?
I mean, I think everybody's happy with what they got. Pittsburgh's in this kind of weird little retool rebuild. They really like prospects over draft picks. So like, that's why they got Melvin Fernstrom from the Canucks in the trade rather than maybe another pick. But I think the Canucks are very happy with what they got out of it. And again, with the context of the team made it public and they knew, the whole league knew that they had to get rid of JT Miller. Like the team just made it known that this guy is not going to fit in our locker room. We have to get rid of him. when you take in that context, I think the Canucks did fine in these trades. And I mean, I know it's a small sample size, but I think they're really happy with what they've got from Philip Hedl. They're really happy with what they have from Marcus Pettersson so far, who they're looking to extend right now. And obviously Pettersson was flipped with the pick that they got in the Miller trade. So I think the Canucks come away with it, and they're pretty happy with what they have. Miller's been putting up points for the Rangers, and the Rangers are going for it. So they're happy about it too. I think everybody's a winner in their own way in this one. I think if you're a Canucks fan, I know losing JT Miller probably sucks, but when you take in the context, exactly, when you take in the context of like what it actually meant for the team to decide, yeah, we have to get rid of this guy, then like I think they did okay. I think they're happy with that trade.
Right. And what did you make of Frank Saravelli, who is like the president, I think, of the Daily Face-Off? He does some contributions to Sportsnet and stuff. And he was saying that it was his understanding that a lot of Vancouver Canuck players were upset about the trade and that they traded the wrong guy. You heard about that, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if again, I haven't heard the quote from Frank, but I can't really speak on that because I haven't heard that from anybody or anything like that. But I mean, I feel like the team, as long as they asked Quinn Hughes what he thought before they did stuff, quite frankly, and I know this sounds a little harsh, I don't really care what anyone else on the team thinks. I think Quinn Hughes is your number one player that you need to be worried about keeping here. So as long as they ask Quinn Hughes what he thinks and Quinn Hughes is happy, I don't think anybody should care what what Kiefer Sherwood thinks.
Yeah, no offense to Sherwood, but yeah, no, I totally agree. Like when they're starting to write about like Orr and like Paul Coffey's in the conversation, and like he's our guy. Like he's
exactly. Guy. And I mean, like you look up and down the lineup, and I mean, like I really like Connor Garland, really like Tyler Myers, but
love Connor Garland. He might be my favorite player.
Absolutely, and they're great dudes. They're both great guys, and I don't care what they think about the trade. I don't care what they think about the trade. I really, really don't. I don't want their opinion. Quinn Hughes is the only voice that matters in my mind.
Totally right. Like, well said. David talked about the Canucks and if they are indeed playoff ready. We'll get to that in a sec. We also talked about seeing the Killers in concert, his love of stand-up. We talked about meeting a hockey legend in Jim Rutherford, how classic rock and jazz factors into his life. The jazz thing is very interesting. And Pattinson's Batman. We talked about that as well. Worst jobs that he's had. And yes, back to the Canucks. Do they make the playoffs this year?
I think this helps them make the playoffs, yes. Again, they're pacing with the Calgary Flames. It's funny, right before I joined here, I was prepping for my show later today, and I was looking at the Flames and the Canucks, and obviously they have the exact same number of points in the standings. They got the same number of regulation wins, regulation plus overtime wins. They've got all of the same numbers in many ways, and if there wasn't an empty net goal from Drew O'Connor in last night's game against the Avalanche, they would have the exact same goal differential, like exact same. Crazy. At minus 14, I think it is, or minus 13. They'd be the exact same at minus 13 goal differential on the season. So these two teams are neck and neck right now. The Flames made moves of their own when they went out and got Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, but I think this helps the Canucks get to that playoff spot. Are they cup contenders? No, I don't think so. I think it's going to take some bigger moves in the offseason to get that done. But I know they're trying to get back there because, quite frankly, they thought they were there when they entered this season.
Toddcast Podcast Sporting Guest visits are powered by Sacred Meds, Canada's best online dispensary for cannabis, psilocybin, and psychedelics. Shop now at sacredmeds.co.
The sun is shining, we climb 1,000 steps down through the ravine to the shore. Under a golden sky, hand in hand, you and I, here with the ones that we love, dancing to the light. Here in paradise, this is what dreams are made of.
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
Why do you think Canadian comedians have been so successful on the world stage? Like, what is it, right? Think about this. John Candy, Jim Carrey, Dan Aykroyd, Catherine O'Hara, Mike Myers, Rick Moranis, Andrea Martin, Phil Hartman. It's those days. SCTV with Dave Thomas, Eugene Levy, Martin Short, even Kids in the Hall, and that troupe. Ali Hassan is another name and a current name that you could certainly add to that list. He's the host of CBC Radio 1's Laugh Out Loud. A couple of years ago, he did the Does This Taste Funny tour, a Canadian tour. It was a critical success. Ali was a chef for about a decade, and his show looked at his time in that industry, his connection to fine cuisine, his struggle with overeating, like who doesn't have that? And when Ali jumped a Zoom with us, we talked about his amazing career, being in Breakaway, French Immersion. He was Uncle Stevie in Goon. He shared the shows that he was binge watching at the time, a tip of the hat going out to Ted Lasso. Generational differences came up. So did collecting hockey cards, comic books. We talked Iron Maiden, Metric, and Feist. He shared a near-death driving story. We talked about superpowers and time travel. The World Juniors and Connor Bedard came up. And Ali also talked about cancel culture. Is it real or not? Listen to this.
Well, it's a great way to phrase it. Is it or isn't it? Because sometimes you're like, it's not really a thing. When the Bill Maher's of the world, what is he on, his fourth show on a major network? And he's talking about cancel culture. You've never really been canceled. One time you had to apologize for something because some advertisers were going to pull advertising from your show. You have not faced cancel culture. What are you even talking about? And all these, Fox News hosts in their 18th year of hosting a show with huge ratings, you don't have to worry about it. So it's kind of comedic to hear some of the people yelling about cancel culture when they have never even come close to being canceled. And sometimes cancel culture is just like, well, hey, man, you didn't move with the times. You are not adapting. The world is moving. The world doesn't say that word anymore. The world doesn't do this anymore. The world is trying not to punch down and make people who are already oppressed feel more oppressed. And you refuse to move along. So the consequences are a network doesn't want to carry your show. A network doesn't want to carry your comedy special. And is that cancel culture? You still got YouTube. You still got venues. You go up, do your thing, create your own audience. And I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it or isn't it? I think that's the best way to phrase it, because it's not that clear. It's not that cancel culture exists. It might, but in most cases, it's not where most of the complaining is coming from.
Listen to this on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC approved repair shop. Visit them on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies.
Red Truck Beer, delivered fresh, the official beer of the Toddcast podcast.
When I first met you, in the park, I couldn't look you in the eye. Now I know myself all too well, and I'm a fool for love, for love. Please You won't remember that. You were too young. Maybe that's not so bad. Not knowing what you never had.
I need you to just picture being in a very small studio, East Vancouver, and seeing that performed live. I think it's a 6 or 7 piece band. Kat Madden, and a new song for her. It's new to the Toddcast as well. First spin for us. It's called Won't Remember, and you'll likely see that one, I would think, at the next Toddcast Blue Light Sessions. Again, it's this Friday on the 21st of February. We do all of our shows at the Blue Light Studio, East Vancouver. Not that, we're against doing something somewhere else. It's just that, we do a monthly thing with them. Usually it's the last Friday of the month. I think that this time around it was like, because there was obviously there's February 28th. I think that the history of Gunpowder couldn't do that date. So we were like, okay, how about we do the 21st? And we just kind of settled, air quotes, on that. You may get lucky and grab one of the last few tickets left through eventbrite.ca. Just $20. Eventbrite, B-R-I-T-E, eventbrite.ca. I haven't checked out, honestly, in the last couple of days. It could be sold out already, but do check that out if you want to come. There's literally handful of tickets left. So you heard a new song for Quickness. That was called Paradise. A first spin as well to the Toddcast, and another gem in Vancouver's music scene. BCIT's campus station, Evolution 1079, just added that song to their playlist, evolution1079.com. You can stream live there. Quickness, killer live band. If you get a chance to see these guys, to see them play, take that chance. Okay, to our final guest of this episode 356, cosplay Twitch streamer Danielle DeNicola. This week's entertainment guest, powered by Thrive Management, one of Canada's biggest and best event staffing agencies. If you need models, brand ambassadors for your parties, maybe you're talking operations, sales, TV, film, trade shows, home maintenance, and a lot more. They work in major cities across the country and run by a really, really good friend of mine named Sasha. She can up your game at your next event. Find out more through thrivemanagement.ca. Thrivemanagement.ca. So cosplay streaming has become massive, caps locked. It's gaming, performance art, fandom, costumes on Twitch and Kick and YouTube. Huge communities. You wouldn't even believe how big it really truly is, and widely interactive. That's the cool thing, right? Some streamers making big money too through sponsorships, donations, merch sales, Patreon accounts. So how did Danielle get her start?
So I started cosplay was because I was in college. I went to college for advertising. So I was doing creative advertising, graphic design, and I have always played video games, loved video games, and
who doesn't,
was
right?
playing. Sorry.
I said, who doesn't, right?
Yeah, right. Grew up playing games, was playing games in college, a lot of World of Warcraft. And then when League of Legends came out, we all swapped over to League of Legends and played that all the time. And I ended up on a team with a bunch of girls. We would stream on Twitch, but my lane partner in League of Legends and I got very, very close pretty fast. We ended up living together later on, but
that's cool.
We would go to conventions together. I wouldn't dress up though, and she would. She loves cosplay. I was just like too nervous, too shy, and she essentially one day asked me if I would wear a costume if she made me a costume.
Okay.
And she would do it with me, kind of as a pair to dissipate some of the nerves. And I told her that I would, mostly because it was Dragon Ball Z and she knew that I love Dragon Ball Z. So she really hit me in the soft spot.
Sure. Yeah.
But we went to a con and we're in cosplay. And I had always wanted to. I was just too shy. But that's why I started cosplaying. We did the one con and it was such a blast being in the costume and interacting with everybody else doing Dragon Ball Z. We were making immediate friends constantly throughout the day and seeing people and being like, oh, we saw you earlier, like that's the Goku. And it was just cool. Really fun. And then I wanted to do Android 18, and then I wanted to do all these other things, and then it literally spiraled. It has never stopped since, because I've just wanted to do more and more characters. And
gotta love friends like that, hey, like nudge you on from time to time, encourage and kind of push you out of your comfort zone. You just heard with Danielle, getting out of her zone meant that she built confidence, right? Growth, new opportunity suddenly presenting itself. Try it. You'll see. Getting out of your comfort zone will boost creativity. It can lead to things that would never have happened if you played it safe. Like this podcast is also a testament to that. If I just gone straight back to radio when CFOX let me go in the summer of 2014, like damn near 15 years spent working at that radio station, doing the morning show, did the afternoon show for a huge chunk of time. Never in a million years, put it this way, never in a million years did I think that I was going to lose that job, right? But getting out of my comfort zone, getting into podcasting, marketing, sales, subscribers and sponsors and all that stuff. Like we jumped a Zoom with Danielle for just over half hour. You can hear it, you can see it at our iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, et cetera, YouTube, of course. And we covered a lot of stuff. We get into talking about the music in her life, like AC/DC, GNR, Kenny Chesney, seeing Van's Warped Tour. Talked about Teen Titans, traveling to London. And of course, we talked a lot about the streaming industry, the good, the bad, the weird things when you're at a Comic-Con, meeting Will Shatner. I'm like, you met William freaking Shatner? Resident Evil costumes came up, and how being a content creator, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a really long time. You wouldn't think about it being so long, but I could spend 2 hours just posting something across all of the different social media platforms. Like it's a lot that goes into it. Like getting it ready, getting it cropped right, with the right caption, with the right like music, and making it consistent, and having to re-edit it to go on a different platform. And it takes a really, really long time. You wouldn't think that it does, but it does. So.
Well, yeah, especially when you're doing, unless you have a team.
Right.
Oh, 100%. If you're serious about content creation and making money doing it, then you need to think of it as a full-time job. Like the hours are all over the map too, right? Like sometimes there's crazy, busy, long-ass days, and some days it's just chill and like bang off a few things here and there. Don't really slam yourself with too much work. That's the cool thing about being an entrepreneur. Because let's face it, I mean, truly, content creation is just that. Danielle was also into talking about all sorts of things. We talked about aliens, talked about binging Silo on Apple TV. She talked about a deal that she worked out with Intel, her love of Dead Space, Spider-Man No Way Home. And for anyone listening, thinking about streaming, this advice is pure gold.
Yeah, I think, like I said about streaming, I think same with content creation, consistency is the most important thing. Posting like 3 or 4 times in a row and then being gone for a month and then doing it again will never equate to any growth. I think the most important thing that I tell people is to make sure that you can consistently do what you're doing. So don't try to burn yourself out all at once, or make something huge and try to do like everything that you possibly can at one time. Pace yourself with like small stepping stones of growth, and it will give you way better results in the long run than the sprints.
Toddcast Podcast Entertainment Guest Visits are powered by Thrive Management, an event staffing agency that provides staffing services across Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, Ottawa, and all of BC. Find out more at thrivemanagement.ca.
Gone like a thief in the night. Out of the blue is where it came from. The tears I didn't see in your eyes, that was the smoking gun. You were on to the next like I was nothing to you. Left me in pieces, now there's no still see you painted on the back of my eyes. What I wanted to find, it ain't at the bottom of the bottle, sitting top shelf high, some low down dive. It ain't at the end of the throttle, every night train by when the road is wide. Back to you every time, all this missing you is never far behind. I need to know, I wanna go where the I wanna know, I wanna go where the broken hearts hide.
There we go. One of my favorite singers of all time. His name is Kyle McCurney here on the Toddcast, and a relatively new song for him. It's called Broken Hearts Hide. He's released stuff since then, but this one got me, and I thought that you would dig it as well. Kyle's been part of this podcast since we launched, by the way. His old band, Hard Honey, that's the music that you hear at the start and at the end of each podcast, that big meaty riff, the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. That's Kyle. The kid is an absolute monster. I followed his career from almost the beginning, and every band, every project that he's been in has been top notch. And it turns out that Americana is just right down Kyle's wheelhouse. He's based out of Alberta, but he's coming to Vancouver on May 2, coming to play the Fox Cabaret. Absolutely stoked for that. If you go, I will see you there. Looking forward to next week. You will hear from 9 guests in another Over the Years Toddcast. We're kind of combing over all of the guests that we've had and some key moments from their visits. As mentioned, we're into year 11. Year 11. So figured it's time to kind of start showcasing the amazing guests that we've had in that time and the ones that maybe you didn't catch. Just kind of cherry picking the cool key moments. Of course, wanted to give a big thanks to this week's guests as well. Russ and Toby from Salvador Dream, Canucks Army managing editor David Quadrelli, and cosplay Twitch streamer Danielle DeNicola. You are all absolute beauties. Thank you for taking the time to jump online, be a guest, share your awesome stories. And thank you for sharing your visits, by the way, on social media as well. We see that from time to time from our guests. And of course, that's huge. It helps us grow. Episode 356. Let's call this one done. Once again, my name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe. Follow along. We have a super active social media feeds in brackets. We do our best to kind of keep up with the comments and the chirps. We see those as well. Tell your friends about us. It's a big way as well as how we grow an indie podcast. We're part of the Realm.fm network. So many great fiction and nonfiction podcasts there. As mentioned, we're on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Megaphone, YouTube for all of the video that we do. Of course, huge thanks to all of our exceptional sponsors. They are the heartbeat of what we do, the lifeblood. We wouldn't do it without their support. Big love to all of them, of which you can find all sponsor websites at toddhancock.ca. If you would like to sponsor the podcast with your business or yourself, that would be weird, but I would do it, I suppose. It depends on what you want me to talk about. You can do it for as little as $10 a day is what I'm getting at. Contact info is at the homepage. Maybe we'll have a beer, have a coffee, see what's up. And as always, if you help us find a sponsor, we will give you a commission, right? Make a little side scratch listening to the Toddcast. That has happened a handful of times over the years. Honestly, it's not something that I ever expect. More just like, I hope that would happen. That would be kind of cool. So just keep that in mind. If you know a business that might get it, right? Marketing online, on a podcast, on social media feeds, it works. People see your shit. All right. So till next time, don't be an asshole, because nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard. Most of all, believe in yourself.
You've been listening to the Toddcast podcast, powered by Citywide Mortgage Services, dedicated to helping you find the best mortgage rates. Available 7 days a week at citywidemortgage.ca.
Listening to a podcast should be time well spent, and I promise it will be if you'll give this podcast a try. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in every episode, I talk with leading experts on topics I know you will find fascinating. From why people can't keep secrets, what your favorite music says about you, why your pet acts in strange ways, and so much more. Something You Should Know is designed to give you information you can use in your life and give you great intel that you can share with others. I'm told it's a binge-worthy podcast. And with over 1,000 episodes, there's a lot to binge on. Something You Should Know has been ranked in the top of the Apple Podcast charts consistently for a long time. I know you're going to like this. I just need to get you to try it. Something You Should Know. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Just keep it simple.
I'm making the promo.
Just keep it simple. Just say, hey, we're the Brav Bros. Two guys that talk about Bravo.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're the Brav Bros.
No.
Oh.
Dude, stop with the voice. Just keep it simple.
I've seen promos on TV, dude. This is how you get the fans engaged. This is how you get listeners. We're trying to get listeners here. If we just say, oh, we're two dudes that talk about Bravo, people are going to get tired of it already. We need some oomph.
All right, then fine. Let's try to do it with your voice.
Brav Bros.
Good job.
I'm Amy Nicholson, the film critic for the LA Times.
And I'm Paul Scheer, an actor, writer, and director. You might know me from The League, Veep, or my non-eligible for Academy Award role in Twisters.
We love movies, and we come at them from different perspectives.
Yeah, like Amy thinks that, Joe Pesci was miscast in Goodfellas, and I don't.
He's too old. Let's not forget that Paul thinks that Dune 2 is overrated.
It is.
Anyway, despite this, we come together to host Unspooled, a podcast where we talk about good movies, critical hits,
fan favorites, must-sees, and in case you missed them.
We're talking Parasite to Home Alone.
From Grease to The Dark Knight.
We've done deep dives on popcorn flicks. We've talked about why Independence Day deserves a second look.
And we've talked about horror movies, some that you've never even heard of, like Ganja and Hess.
So if you love movies like we do, come along on our cinematic adventure.
Listen to Unspooled wherever you get your podcasts.
And don't forget to hit the follow button.